Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
Welcome to another edition of the Midwest Blitz. We just finished up conference championship week. Yup.
We're going to talk Hoosiers, Buckeyes. We're going to talk the SEC Championship game. We're going to talk all the conference championship games that had meaning this weekend, including the MAC. And we're going to get to some of the controversy, what happened with Notre Dame and Miami. I don't think they actually played a game this weekend unless you watched ACC Network, and I think they replayed the game like 15 times. But we're going to touch on that. First, though, we're going to go to Indianapolis. We're going to talk Big Ten Championship game. My Hoosiers won a fist fight in the trenches against the world-famous Buckeyes of Ohio State, 13-10. This was a down and dirty ball game. This was not pretty quarterbacks and wide receivers type of stuff. This was more smash mouth than I think anybody could have imagined, the type of game that I love to see and that I think Drew loves to see also here on the Midwest Blitz. So Indiana has silenced the doubters, at least the ones that were willing to turn the game on and watch them. They proved that they can be a great team in the trenches, which was the Hoosiers' deficiency last year when they lost to Notre Dame and Ohio State. The critique was, well, they're a pretty good team, but they can't hang up front with the real big boys in the sport of college football. They proved that that's not true anymore. And along with being tough up front on both sides of the ball, they have a Heisman-level quarterback in Fernando Heisman-Dosa, and an elite coaching staff, possibly the best coaching staff in the country. I don't want to take anything away from Kirby Smart or Ryan Day, even though the Hoosiers got the best of the Buckeyes in this game. I still think Ryan Day is one of the best coaches in the sport, but Cignetti definitely had his day in the sun. He got to hold court with the Fox boys after the game, and they were having a good time with him, Coach Drew. D'Angelo Pons made a lot of noise this weekend. I think he made himself a little money. I think NFL scouts appreciated the battle that he had with all-star thoroughbred wide receiver Jeremiah Smith for the Buckeyes, giving up 6 inches and 50 pounds, as they told us on the broadcast, about 38 times, Coach Drew. He was able to cover, stay in front of him, and able to tackle the big fella. Good game for Smith. Maybe a bigger game for Pons, though, because everybody in the country knows who he is now and sees what he can do on the biggest stage against the highest level talent. Another Hoosier I want to talk about real quick is Charlie Becker. Drew, how many people in the country even knew who the hell Charlie Becker was before the other night? But he was the most effective wide receiver on the field in a game that had at least 3 All-American wide receivers in Surratt, Tate, and Smith for the Buckeyes, and all Big Ten guy and Omar Cooper, who was out of the game, rolled his ankle in the first quarter. Charlie Becker ends up being one of the players of the game for the Hoosiers, so pretty big deal for Mr. Becker. He might get himself on some draft boards here. I don't think he'll be draft eligible till next year, but pretty big for a guy who barely caught a pass till halfway through the season. Is coming in relief of Surratt and now Cooper, and been huge for the Indiana Hoosiers. Another guy who had a big game, Coach Drew, Caden Curry from Center Grove High School, south side of Indianapolis, put on a show. Definitely made himself some hay with the NFL scouts, and honestly, he controlled the first quarter of that football game on the defensive side of the ball for the Buckeyes. It seemed like there were 2 or 3 of him out there, but there was actually only one. Caden Curry's a bad man. I want to talk about Elijah Surratt and the back shoulder touchdown catch he had. I was on the phone with my favorite Buckeye fan, friend of the show, Buckeye Wyatt, before the game, and I was like, Elijah Surratt is at least the best possession receiver in America. And he showed us out with that back shoulder touchdown catch where I think it was Igbinosa that was covering him, maybe not, but I mean, the guy's draped all over him, but you can't out-physical Elijah Surratt. The Waffle House is open 24/7. And Louis Moore, another interception for this guy. All Big Ten safety. I think he's an 8th-year COVID senior, Coach Drew, and he's making the most of his time in Bloomington, his second stint there after coming back from Ole Miss in the transfer portal. Also, real quick, the IU linebackers, Aiden Fisher, Isaiah Bones-Jones, and Elijah Hardy, the diamond in the rough that Cignetti's staff found. IU's linebackers were fantastic. I think all 3 of these guys have a really good shot to play in the NFL. I want to say this about the Buckeyes. For Coach Day, Julian Sayin, and the rest, there's nothing to be ashamed of losing this game. I know that a lot of America was shocked at this outcome. Coach Drew and I were not shocked at this outcome because we've been watching the Hoosiers all season. And so some people who, don't pay attention to the sport that much, the casuals, as we like to call them, they might be shocked, but this really is not a shocking outcome. Ohio State is more talented or has more talent than Indiana, but the margin is not as wide as people think it is. And another thing that I want to say about the Hoosiers, and then I'll let Drew talk for a second, although I'm pretty excited about this game, if you can't tell, is that Cignetti has not gotten all of his good players. In fact, most of them were not highly recruited out of high school, and a lot of them are portal guys, or they're guys that he developed at James Madison. But the thing is, Coach Drew, some guys that come out of high school with 4 or 5-star talent end up disappointing you because they don't have the work ethic or other intangibles. But if you get a guy in the weight room and you coach him up for a few years, he might have been a 2 or a 3-star coming out of high school, but now he plays like a 4 or a 5-star, and Indiana's got a hell of a lot of those guys on their team. IU roster is loaded with NFL talent. They're not all first-round picks like Smith and Tate for Ohio State, but they do have a lot of good athletes who are great football players. So maybe not as much on the measurables, but when you add in the football IQ and the coaching, pretty tough to deal with a team like that. I will say for the Buckeyes, much like last year, I think the loss to Michigan at the end of the year helped them get some things straightened out going into the college football playoff tournament. This could end up being a positive for Ohio State. They're still one of the front runners to win the national championship, in my opinion. I wish the Hoosiers wouldn't have to play them again in order to have a chance to win it, but they very well might. I mean, Ohio State is still not to be slept on. They probably will make some adjustments and come out of this with some positives. Coach Drew, what do you think?
Well, I like to congratulate the Hoosiers on a great season. This is the first time they're undefeated. Hoosiers! This is the first time that they're undefeated in its school history. They also captured the Big Ten championship. From the first half of the game, when Benedict Arnold, Curry, sacked Heisman Doza, in comparison, correct. 4 to 5 years ago, when Curry was still in high school, Indiana was a young upcoming team, probably weren't around, just like the Continental Army. And then he thought it was sweet to leave and go join the British Army, Ohio State. And then Heisman Doza jumped with the boys. Now, Curry did knock him out on the first one. That's what we're getting to. Knocks him on his ass. We thought for sure, we looked at it. I looked at Nick. I said, we just had a Simba moment from The Lion King. We're like, get up, get up.
Get up.
And then I'm thinking, are we seeing a Disney movie where his brother comes in and wins the Big Ten championship? I'm like, dude, ESPN's going to eat this up. I can't wait to write this book.
That game started with some high drama, didn't it?
It did. It was back there. Curry was basically playing running back for IU at some point because that's where it felt like he was lining up every play. He was right next to Heisman Doza on his hip. But you know what? They fought through. It came out. Then Amari Cooper went down, and we're like, what is going on? We're like, now we can't do it. But there's a man, great moments, create great opportunity, just like we listened to the Miracle speech at halftime. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, me and Nick listened to the Miracle on Ice speech. We were rocking, we were jogging, we were listening to all these hype stuff. Charlie Becker comes in and just goes, I can play football too. And that's exactly what they did. Next man up mentality. When you have a good team, good culture, just like IU, Indiana does, you're going to see these things, okay? The other thing I want to mention too, to echo what Nick said, my stepmom hasn't watched a lot of Indiana football this year. But when she said they lined up against Ohio State, she said, you can tell there's a difference. But then I had to remind her that on the Midwest Blitz, we don't count stars. Stars only get you so far. It's about the heart. It's about the length. It's about what you do. Just like Nick said, when you find diamonds in the rough, you're finding system players that are good attributes to what you do on offense and defense. And that's exactly what Indiana did. Now, can Julian Sayon play beyond the fourth quarter? Well, that was the first time he did all season. Now, he's had a phenomenal season. So before somebody tries to clip this and say that I said Julian Sayon sucks, he did a phenomenal job. The only problem was that was the first time he led in the fourth quarter all season in the Big Ten championship. If somebody told me, yep. If somebody told me that, then I would be like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that deal all the time for my freshman quarterback. Then the kicker too, when he missed it, I told Nick right before it happened, I wish we were documenting. I said, watch, he misses this one. Because the first one before, he curved it because he was worried about them attacking the apex of where the curve was on a short shot. But then he just overcompensated and it flew left. Which that ended up being Indiana's ball, and they took control and they did what they needed to do to win that game. Also, I just want to say something. Johnny Manziel, just because you hang out with somebody doesn't mean we discredit a back shoulder fade to the end zone as a Heisman worthy moment. Johnny, relax. Okay, you paid for your sins. I get it. You've done what you need to do to get back to everybody not thinking you're a DB. But listen, dude.
What did Johnny Football say?
He discounted that back shoulder throw that Heisman Doza threw, basically because he's Pavia's boy.
Yeah, I mean,
I saved this for the podcast, so you didn't know.
I'll bet you. I figured you ambushed me. I'll bet you $100 Manziel hasn't watched Indiana play one time. Mendoza throws that back shoulder ball to Surratt all the time. They can do it blindfolded. But, yeah, that's all right that Johnny Football might think or say something like that, because I don't think his dumbass watched film when he was playing football. So why would he be watching Indiana right now?
Yeah, not everybody can just do what he did. Like, it's just a discount of, he's like a simple play. That wasn't a simple play. That's a high executed play. It was the same thing when Jeremiah Smith made that one catch. We looked at each other and we said, yeah, there's nothing you could do on that. That was just a dog.
Jeremiah Smith is great, man. He really is. He's a really good player. Really, really good player. I think that the Buckeyes were counting on him with his size and strength advantage, catching one of those curl routes and turning around and maybe breaking a tackle and turning one of those 10-yard catches into a 50-yard catch. But Pons did a great job of coming up and wrapping him up and getting him to the ground. He had help from his teammates, but that really was a fantastic football game. The one clear advantage that Indiana had going in, though, and I think we said this on here, if not, we said it on the phone, is that Indiana had been through more adversity. And if you get to the fourth quarter of a game, which I think you were kind of alluding to, you get into the fourth quarter and you haven't been in a close game yet, which Ohio State really hadn't. I don't know. It's kind of like in boxing, like Muhammad Ali. Some of the boxing people used to say, oh, you're going into the deep water, meaning the end of the championship rounds. And then it takes a new level of endurance and focus and all this. And Indiana had that because of the tough games that they had played early in the year against Oregon, Iowa, and Penn State all on the road. And so I think that did set not only Indiana's players, but maybe the staff up, because they knew who they could count on, who to go to, what plays to call, how to manage situations. This might have been the best thing with regard to this crunch time gene that Indiana has that I heard. So somebody asked Curt Cignetti a question about end of game clock management, and they end up throwing on a 3rd and 1. They throw a fade ball to Charlie Becker for like 30 yards, and that kind of helped ice the game. And they asked Cignetti about his methodology managing the clock at the end of the game, and he had it broken down to how many plays were left that could be run in the game based on how many timeouts were left and all this stuff. Some of these guys can't decide whether they want to call a run or a pass or whether they want to call a timeout or not. Cignetti knows with 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in 3 total timeouts, you could run 14 to 16 plays, or I wish I remember the exact way he said it, but I mean, the attention to detail and the fact that you've been doing it in games. It's one thing to have that information on a clipboard to reference. It's another thing to have the presence of mind to actually manage the game in such a way to make it useful. Impressive by Cignetti. If this turns out to be a rematch in the college football playoffs in the championship game, it could easily go the other way. But it was a great night to be a Hoosier fan. Hoosier fans, we've been waiting for this for a long, long time. I was 2 years old the last time IU beat Ohio State. Obviously, I don't remember that. We haven't been to the Rose Bowl since 1967. So there's a lot of you out there that are old enough to remember that, or at least old enough to know that fact. And the idea, I was so excited when they announced the playoff field to see that Indiana was in fact going to be playing in the Rose Bowl, because that was something that my family used to dream about happening. And I honestly never thought it would happen. And here we are, Hoosiers going to the Rose Bowl. And that's something you can never take away from us. I can't wait to get a t-shirt and a hat that has little roses with an IU on it. I mean, I'm so pumped to play in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and I believe that's awesome. Indiana has the opportunity to play in the Rose Bowl. I think that was a great job that they did that for them. They could have put them anywhere else, but they kind of said, hey, Rose Bowl, that's Big Ten country. And you won, so they didn't give it to Ohio State, because they could have, because Ohio State dropped down to 2, apparently because Week 13 games do matter, which we allude to later. That's what we call crumbles for later on in the podcast. Another thing, too, I appreciate you all. I tortured Nick being an Indiana fan. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you drank your sorrows away and got cake in your face, because listen, Big Nick has been here since nobody even knew about them. The whole world hates you. Why do you hate him? He was just standing there, catching a stray. Oh, did you just mention how to clock manage like a chess game? Oh, Indiana doesn't do that. It's not going to be a chess match. Indiana's going to be blown up by 35. They don't even have to do that. Oh, I love it. These guys, you know what? Ooh, let me tell you.
I understand that.
This has been coming a long way. And I get it. They're undefeated. They won the national championship. I'd be doing the same thing if my team decided to do stuff like that. But again, that's another cookie to crumble to later on in the podcast about what I'm not happy about and now I have to defend for the next 8 months.
You don't have to defend it. Let's go to Atlanta, where the SEC Championship game was played between two bad blood rivals, and one dominated the other. The Georgia Bulldogs took down the Alabama Crimson Tide 28-7 in a game that actually was not as close as that 3-touchdown score differential might suggest. The Dogs dominated this game, Coach Drew, especially at the line of scrimmage and in the running game. Rushing yards favored the Dogs, 141 to -3 for the Crimson Tide. Ouch. Despite how good Ty Simpson and this Crimson Tide passing game can be with Ryan Williams and all the other weapons they have, and when Jam Miller's healthy at running back, that does help. But Alabama, without a timestamp this.
Yeah, you got it.
Alabama, with this lack of running game they have, has about as much chance to win the national championship as Tulane or James Madison. They're not going to be able to get through this playoff playing against teams with defenses like Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech. They're not the only 3 teams with good defenses. They're not going to be able to succeed in this tournament without a running game. They probably do deserve to be in, because punishing them for losing a rematch in the SEC Championship game probably would not be appropriate. I know there's some people might have something else to say about that, but they're not built to win this tournament. They might beat Oklahoma in the first round, but I just don't think they're built for it. Kirby Smart showed his special teams prowess once again with a blocked punt that led to the first touchdown of the game for Georgia. I heard a stat. If this is wrong, one of you guys let me know in the comments. You always do, but Georgia's blocked like 18 punts and field goals in the last 3 years. They're basically blocking one almost every other game. That is crazy. That is a high level of coaching that Kirby's doing down there with the Dogs. And I want to say Zachariah Branch, USC Trojan transfer, has been a great weapon for Gunnar Stockton. Dogs look loaded for bear when this playoff starts. I'd be not afraid, but I'd be worried about having to play the Bulldogs as an Indiana fan, even though Indiana's playing great right now. I think everybody in the country should be worried about playing Georgia. They're a very, very complete football team, possibly the only team as complete or maybe better than Indiana or Ohio State right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, this Nick Saban-led Alabama team that wins consistently every year and should never be left out of the college football playoff and affected by any decision in Week 13 compared to other conferences that offers other conferences an opportunity to be deducted points. But I would digress from there. Bama showed that they are not ready for Georgia and they're not ready to be in the college football playoffs. I don't think their run game is going to do good. Ty Simpson, he's had a really good season, but like you said, without the run game, he becomes one-dimensional. That's going to be hard. We're going to see what happens. Georgia Bulldogs did expose some things. There's a lot of good film there for both teams. They did drive the ball and score, so there is some stuff there for them. But again, Alabama, I'm curious what's going to happen with their run game. Going to Oklahoma, this is going to be a tough one. All right. Oklahoma is hungry. They didn't get to play in the college football playoff last year. They're representing the SEC for the first time, just like Texas had the opportunity last year. Texas is not in the college football playoffs, but Oklahoma is. Mateer is on his way to do great things. It's going to be a good matchup.
Let's go to the Big 12 championship game, Coach Drew, where Texas Tech dominated BYU as we predicted here on the Midwest Blitz, 34-7. BYU kept it close score-wise going into halftime, but this Red Raider defense led by Jacob the Stash Rodriguez, that's what I'm going to call him, Coach Drew. That guy's got a hell of a mustache. This is an elite defense for Texas Tech by any measurement. I think some of the same people that didn't think Indiana were capable of hanging with Ohio State also don't think Texas Tech's legit because they're in the Big 12 because they haven't actually watched them play. This front seven is as stout as any team in the country. BYU struggled to run the ball, not as much as Alabama struggled to run the ball against Georgia, But they also have a really good quarterback in Barron Morton and a really good receiver core who I watched early in the year in the game where Barron Morton got knocked out. And even with the backup quarterback in the game, these receivers are capable of getting open. They're pretty deep. I think that this team is going to be dangerous. Coach Joey McGuire's put that oil money to good use with NIL and transfer portal additions and has Texas Tech poised to make a playoff run. Red Raiders, going to be a fun team to watch. This team is legit, so when you get a chance to watch them play, tell me what you think. So I know a lot of people haven't watched Texas Tech play, but they are for real.
Well, some people call it black gold, and that is definitely oil down there in Texas. Texas Tech, I've been in that area where they are from, and I just want to say this, man, they do got some oil money down there. Now, here's the thing. BYU tried to make adjustments, but that mustache linebacking core, they're just built different. Like, I love it. It's kind of like sometimes you see in hockey or wrestling at the high school level, different sports do it. They all make everybody go blonde. Well, they decided they're like, well, we're just all going to get dope handle mustaches. I mean, the next thing you know, Red Raiders, they're playing football at Saturday in the afternoon and they're fighting fires at the end of the night. Like they look like some dope ass firefighters.
Texas Tech's a pretty fun team to watch. Yeah, some good personalities.
I definitely enjoyed the Big 12 and explaining to people that I was around in my local area how the Big 12 has a WWE belt. And I was like, yes, that is actually part of the Big 12. They get a WWE belt. And they're like, what? And then I'm like, yeah, I thought it was funny. That
Coach Drew
they
taught
get a
me that.
belt. No, it's awesome, dude. You should look at it. They did everything that they could. BYU had a great season. I hope they do a great job in the Pop-Tart Bowl. I think that's what they're linked to. We're still trying to figure out where some trickling down of some bowl games are going, as there's some people that have pulled out that we don't agree with. Again, these are just cookie crumbles to the end of the show. It's almost like I'm sending subliminal messages, wink, 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 with my eyes about how I'm talking about certain things.
Crumble cookies, yeah, Pop-Tart Bowl. Yeah, I'll say about
Crumble cookies. That's how BYU kept their coach too. Look at that.
Correct.
Shout out to Crumble Cookie.
Thank you, Crumble Cookie. BYU has a really good team. Freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier. I almost made another joke about Texas Tech being loaded for Bear because the other team's quarterback's name is Bear, but I thought 2 Bear-loaded references were too much, but now I've gone ahead and done it anyway, so I apologize, America, for that one. Bear Bachmeier is going to be really good for BYU. They got their coach hanging around. I think that they might be maybe not quite as good, but sort of like Indiana last year, where Indiana last year, the experience of making a run, having a good season, then you got some pieces coming back. Maybe they come back stronger next year with Bachmeier back as a sophomore. We'll see, but they're a team that maximized their potential. They're just physically outmatched against this Texas Tech team. And so congratulations to BYU on a good season. We wish you were playing Notre Dame in the Pop-Tart Bowl, but you won't be. You'll be playing somebody, though. You want to go to the ACC?
Yeah, real quick. I do want to say BYU, hopefully they can figure it out. BYU versus Utah is an underrated match that nobody really talks about. But if you ever see that rivalry game when BYU plays Utah, oh my gosh, it is
the Holy War.
Is that the Holy War?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough, but in a good way. So BYU, hopefully, you keep it going. You kept your head coach. I think that's awesome. There is some, Iowa State lost their head coach to Penn State. They finally found their match, right?
They're Prince Charming.
After swiping, they swiped right. They swiped right on a lot of people, and a lot of them said decline.
Yeah. I think a lot of people swiped left on them. Let's go to the ACC Championship game where the Duke Blue Devils beat Virginia 27-20 in overtime in a very exciting game that actually turned out to be almost a worst-case scenario for the ACC as a 5-loss Blue Devil team becomes the ACC champion, eliminating Virginia's chances, and Duke didn't have a chance going in, although I did find it funny, Coach Drew, during the selection show, how they tried to act like they thought Duke might get in, and I was like, get out of here with that shit.
You said
5-loss team, man. You were here. You heard me. But
Yep.
Cavaliers forced overtime on a clutch touchdown catch with under 30 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, and then Duke scores to open the overtime, and then gets a game-winning interception by linebacker Luke Mergat. Pretty great win, pretty exciting game for Duke. It's just a shame that maybe they couldn't have taken care of business in a couple of other games earlier in the year and had a chance to get in. But don't worry, the committee decided to let another ACC team in instead, which we'll get to here in a minute. Virginia will play Missouri in the Gator Bowl, and Duke will play Arizona State in the Sun Bowl. I think that might be a pretty fun game. Actually, both of those games might be pretty fun games.
Yeah, actually, the AAC champion was elected for one of the seeds as an automatic bye. Not the ACC, but the AAC.
The American
Just for
Athletic
clarification.
Conference.
And I also wanted to point out, good job, Duke. 5 losses and won a conference. Wow, that was tough, right? I guess only having 5 losses to win that conference, that must have been a cakewalk. I mean, hell, I wonder if the network was paying 24 hours like it's the Christmas story of the Miami versus Notre Dame. Maybe if they were congratulating Duke a little bit more and hyping them up, maybe they would have got in. But no, let's give it to another team, and hopefully they can repair all their money they're about to lose.
My Notre Dame friend Drew here, he's not upset about events over the weekend at all. He's not sore as a Notre Dame fan, if you guys can't tell. Let's go to the MAC championship game that took place in Detroit, where the Western Michigan Broncos took down Miami, Ohio, 23-13. We love the Mid-American Conference here on the Midwest Blitz. We want to make sure we touched on this one. Jalen Buckley, all-MAC running back for the Broncos, put on a show, 19 carries for $193, 2 touchdowns. I think he had 1 touchdown run of 60-plus yards, and he had another one that had to be close to 50. Jalen Buckley will be playing on Sunday, so don't forget that name. And then former Indiana Hoosier wide receiver Cam Perry for Miami, Ohio. So Miami they rotated quarterbacks in this game with a second and third string quarterback. Their starter, Daquan Finn, had an injury about a month ago, I think, and then has decided to leave the team to prepare for the NFL draft, which is kind of a quirky situation. I don't want to judge the guy. I don't know all the details on it. But so with rotating quarterbacks, Cam Perry, former IU wide receiver, made some absolutely next level NFL type plays, including a back shoulder one-handed catch that would make the top 10 on any NFL Sunday. Sorry guys, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold right here. Yeah, those Cam Perry highlights, if you guys haven't seen this, look up the highlights from this game. He makes like some Odell Beckham Jr. type catches. It's pretty wild. He was balling for the Red Hawks. Congratulations, the Broncos, 9-4 MAC champions. They'll play Kennesaw State in the prestigious Myrtle Beach Bowl, Coach Drew. That might be televised on the CW, but I'll still watch it. Miami, Ohio will play Fresno State in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, and you know that's going to be lit, Coach Drew.
That sounds fun and awesome. I do want to clarify for anybody that is listening again that was Miami of Ohio that played in a bowl in the championship for the conference, not Miami of Florida. I just want to remind everybody the clarifications, just so when we get to the next part. The cookies that crumbles they've been leaving does kind of make sense, but some might say at least they played in a conference. But congratulations, Western Michigan. I am proud that the Broncos won because one of my former baseball players is getting looked at by their school. I can't really give around a lot of details, but it looked like he had an official visit or unofficial visit. Can't really recall what it was. He just started playing football his junior year, a real athletic kid. So I love to see that. Hopefully maybe we could bring him in one day once he gets settled into college, if he is going to Western Michigan or another MAC school. I hope he goes shoots for the stars and goes to maybe IU or somewhere fun, if that's where he likes to go. But shout out to Western Michigan. They are not Buffalo. Buffalo disappeared. Penn State disappeared. It was a weird weekend. There's a lot of people that we picked. I mean, I think we had Clemson winning the ACC, and then the SEC. I probably picked Texas. I'm not gonna lie. I'm biased on that one.
I think you did.
So yeah, I think you did. I think I did too. So there's a lot. We loved it all the way up to now, and we still love doing this. So
Coach Drew,
hopefully next year we can have some better insight.
I may have missed a couple picks this season, including my pick a couple or within the last few weeks where I said Notre Dame was a lock to make the college football playoff. Transitioning to our next topic, and I want to tell you, America, that the reason that I said Notre Dame was a lock is because based on the criteria and the initial rankings from the College Football Playoff Committee, they should have been a lock. So like I said, we expected Notre Dame to get in the playoff here, but I think it's obvious to me and Coach Drew that the committee, for whatever reason, decided to change the criteria they were using. And I think that Coach Drew agrees with me here that I'm not upset that Miami got in ahead of Notre Dame, even though I would have liked to have seen Notre Dame get in. But what I'm upset about is that they flip-flopped at the last second and flipped them in a week where neither team played a game. I don't know how you go into the weekend and one team's ranked ahead of the other, and then they decide to change it. And the excuse they made about BYU losing having something to do with it is total bullshit. If you believe that, then I got a bridge to nowhere I can sell you. I think that the ACC pressured the College Football Playoff Committee. I think that Miami and the people from the Atlantic Coast Conference waged kind of a PR campaign, which ESPN totally got behind, to have the Hurricanes usurp the Irish. I mean, we look at these resumes, right? Miami, we got two teams with 2 losses. Miami won the head-to-head matchup, but Miami had 2 unranked losses, which is why they were initially ranked behind Notre Dame. Then I'm not advocating for either team here. Notre Dame lost the head-to-head. They had 2 close losses versus 2 very good teams, one of them being Miami. Well, when I say that, it kind of makes me think it makes sense that Miami got in ahead of them. Notre Dame also finished on a very strong note, but if the head-to-head matchup was so important, then how did Miami go into this weekend ranked behind Notre Dame? The fact that they changed it at the last second is so sketchy. Flipping the teams on an off week was the wrong way to handle business, and Hunter Yurachek was not the man to go on and get grilled by Reese Davis about this, because the answers he had were frankly ridiculous. The CFP committee should have put Miami ahead sooner. But I'm going to say this, and then I'll let Coach Drew have the floor. Notre Dame's response to this has been weak and childish. There is nobody that's not a Notre Dame fan at the moment that supports them ducking out of this bowl game and basically not giving any real explanation. I don't know. I heard that Marcus Freeman had to talk to some nuns and they told him they shouldn't play in the game or some bullshit like that. I mean, it's something that just totally doesn't make sense. What about the seniors on the team? Did they not want to play in a bowl game? Now, I know some of you guys are going to say bowl games don't matter. If you think that the bowl games aren't fun and you don't want to watch bowl games over the holidays, this is probably the wrong show for you to be listening to. I'll say that. It's hard for me to believe that there aren't seniors on this football team that would have liked a chance to play again. Even if Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price opted out of the game, Aeneas Williams could have gotten some carries. There's other younger players that could benefit from more practices, more player development with the extra weeks of practice, all these things, a chance for team bonding. But Notre Dame, I hate to quote Paul Feinbaum, but I'm going to do it. Notre Dame acted like a 5-year-old and said, we're going to take our ball and go home. We don't want to play anymore. It's a bad look. And, you know, they've really vilified Notre Dame over the last few weeks on ESPN, and me and Coach Drew have been upset about that. But honestly, Notre Dame has played right into this trap because their response to all this makes them look terrible. And this makes Notre Dame very easy to root against if you are not a specific fan of Notre Dame. And that was the whole plan of this all along, was to get the public to turn against Notre Dame, and them opting out of the bowl game encourages people to do that. This makes the Irish appear to be like entitled, spoiled, rich brats. That's what they look like right now. A bunch of babies. You have to take your lumps and losses. You got to take it like a man. You can't say, well, I don't want to play. Why is a bowl game against BYU not good enough for you? You only want to play if you get in the college football playoff. And then I'm going to mention one last thing, Drew, is now apparently we found out that Notre Dame has a clause in their contract with the CFP that next year, if they're ranked in the top 12, they'll get in no matter what. Does anybody else have that clause? So Notre Dame wants to bitch because they didn't get their way right now when they basically have a built-in cheating clause that's supposed to come into effect next year. So they really have nothing to complain about. I mean, they can complain about the way the committee handled the Miami decision, but in terms of are they being treated fairly when they have a built-in advantage in the contract next year, nobody has any sympathy for you right now, Notre Dame. You really misplayed your hand here.
Yep. And again, just to touch on it, so again, on Selection Sunday, they reminded us that Indiana beat Ohio State and they flipped them in the rankings. Then they showed Bama and said that they didn't move. So everybody was in the room was thinking, okay, so then Notre Dame could have moved. That doesn't make sense. But then they backdoored said that somehow BYU was affected because they were another team that lost that was in this hunt for the playoffs. Then when you put Miami next to Notre Dame, now head-to-head matters. First and foremost, in week 2, when they lost to Texas A&M and I was there, I've told everybody, we're done. We just lost to the 2 best teams that we could play all year. It's going to be hard for us to get into the college football playoffs. We have to win out and some things have to fall. We did not control our destiny. Marcus Freeman made it very clear this whole season that the only thing we can control is what we do moving forward. I think that's very accurate. That's what you have to do. Now, the whole Miami situation, listen, Miami won head-to-head. Coach Drew agreed this whole time, even with my Miami friends, that Notre Dame shouldn't be higher than Miami. But this committee that we put together has showcased and let us know since the first rankings came out, the first official college football playoff rankings, that Notre Dame and Miami are in 2 different rooms. There was a week, I think it was week 2 or week 3, where they said, well, didn't Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head? Does that matter? And they said, well, according to what we know, that doesn't matter because Notre Dame has shown. And it's like, okay, well, if Notre Dame continues to win the way that they did win, and Miami continue to do what they do, how are they then in the same room? Oh, because we put them by each other?
It's because BYU lost, Drew. It's because BYU lost.
It's because BYU lost that Miami moved up. Yeah, that's what they said. They're blaming the Mormons. I like how they keep blaming these religious schools, that it's our faults. So, okay, Miami's in. I thought
sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, Coach Drew.
Yeah.
You guys see what I did there?
But that's why they're sponsored by them. Yeah, and I honestly don't think Bama I think, as we talked about before, Bama wagered something. Bama should have lost something. I mean, that's just how the cookie crumbles. I'll use it again. It's the same thing. If I took $100 to the casino and I lost, I don't go up to the casino and go, well, I spent $100 and I wasn't really having a good night, but I'm a good gambler, so can I have my money back? And the casino goes, yeah, here's your money. You're okay, buddy. But if I was hot, I could have won a lot more money. Alabama was playing for a bye. Or not a bye. Sorry, let me correct myself. They're playing for a home field advantage. They're playing for something. The people at home don't realize that that's what they're playing for. Now, they are going to be visitors, so they did, not get any help there. But again, going back to the situation, Miami should have been higher than Notre Dame this whole time. We should have been playing this cat and mouse. I said if the Notre Dame doesn't make it, you could probably look back into the last one because I'm pretty sure I said it. If we make the Pop-Tart Bowl, which we did, we declined it. And I just feel like, according to our AD, this is on Monday. That's why I'm wearing my Chargers jersey because Monday Night Football as we're recording. One of the things the AD said was right after the decision happened, according to him, again, this is me quoting, he said that his phone was going off crazy and all these different bowls were calling them to get Notre Dame to play in it. Now, JMU deserves to be in the college football playoffs. I'm not taking anything away from them, okay? They got to their position correctly as how it is played. There was probably pressure because the Christmas story, I'm sorry, the Notre Dame versus Miami game was being played 24/7 on the ACC network, and the ACC was pushing for Miami. I agree that ACC should be helping Miami, but we're like cousins in this conference. I get it. We're not all the way in, but we schedule a lot of games and we help them financially, which again goes back to the AD saying that now the AC is going to be their whole financial stuff is going to be in ruins. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening. I don't support Notre Dame not going to a bowl game before anybody comes after me. I'm just reporting what is being said. I don't want to look at it anymore. Honestly, I love cheering for Indiana, and I love cheering for the Big Ten to go whoop some SEC ass.
I do want to respond to the relationship that now former television executive / current Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bavacqua said that their relationship is now, air quotes, strained with the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I've heard this from Notre Dame fans that they think that Notre Dame has a mutually beneficial relationship with the ACC. And my impression is that all these years of Notre Dame's they have 24 sports that compete in Atlantic Coast Conference schedules as an actual member. Football is the only one where they're a partial member. I think that the ACC thought that if they let Notre Dame do this kind of a trial run, being 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out, that they might just decide to join the conference eventually, which Notre Dame has now shown all this they have no intention of doing. So I think the ACC is kind of like, screw you, Notre Dame. I equated it like this earlier to Coach Drew. It's like Notre Dame's married to the ACC, except during football season, they've got a side bitch they have to step out and go see. And the ACC's tired of feeling like they're second fiddle. And I think that relationship is soured. I know that, or I believe, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, that Bavacqua said that they might explore the option of leaving the ACC. Under tampering might not be the right word, but they said that they've been irreparably damaged by some of the things that the ACC has done in this PR campaign in favor of the Hurricanes and against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I think the ACC would be like, yeah, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. I don't think they like the way that Notre Dame has handled this. We're halfway in your conference, but we're going to make the CFP and not share any money with you. Oh, well, we're halfway in your conference, but we're going to steal a bid from the best team, the best at-large team in your conference, Miami. They don't feel like they have a partnership with Notre Dame. I think they feel like they're being taken advantage of by Notre Dame. And that's just me trying to put the shoe on the other foot and put myself in the position of the ACC administrators and whatnot, because this relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC has clearly, in my opinion, become toxic. And so I'm not sure how much longer it's going to go on, but I think this is part of a conversation that me and Coach Drew and our other Notre Dame friends have been having on and off for a couple of years, which is that the rest of college football wants to force Notre Dame to play by the same rules as everybody else and join a conference. And I'm not saying if I was Notre Dame, I wouldn't want to do it either. Notre Dame's got a good thing going. But when you're the only lone wolf left on the ranch, so to speak, the other people are going to try and force you into a pen with the rest of the sheep. And that's the way the other conferences feel about it. They don't want Notre Dame stealing at large bids from the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC. The other conferences don't like it. They don't like all these complicated television deals that they have to do where, oh, well, when we play at Notre Dame, it's going to be on NBC, but when we play somewhere else, it's on this other channel. They want Notre Dame to get in alignment with what the other schools are doing. And I think this has put a target on Notre Dame's back to the other conferences. I'm not endorsing that happening. I'm just telling you that's my observation. And these are the conversations that I've had with Coach Drew and our friend Tyler and other Notre Dame people, is that Notre Dame's almost like the outlaw in an old Billy the Kid Western or something. Nobody's on Notre Dame's side right now, and everybody's kind of out to get them when it comes to all this not being in a conference stuff. And I think that has partly to do with why they got the chair pulled out from under them on Selection Sunday the way that they did, because clearly there was no logical consistency to the explanation that Hunter Yurachek gave and that the CFP committee gave. I mean, if you watch the post-game show, Coach Drew, after Joey Galloway and all the A-Team ESPN guys left, and then they had in the next round of guys that were all former players, dude, they were cutting up and laughing like someone just played a joke on Notre Dame. They were like in disbelief at the way it went down. Because the post-game show guys were a little less professional. They were just kind of more like me and you sitting here having a conversation, and they were like, whoa, what the hell just happened? They couldn't believe it, just like I couldn't. I was shocked when I was sitting on my couch with Drew, and we heard the announcement. But this drama with Notre Dame and the conferences and all this, it's not over. And I don't know what the conclusion of it is going to be, but I wish Notre Dame would have handled this bowl game thing a little differently, because it's not going to help them out at all. And I know I've got my IU shirt on, but I'm not a Notre Dame hater. Coach Drew, am I a Notre Dame hater?
No, you're not a Notre Dame hater.
I'm not a Notre Dame hater.
I do want to say this, though. There's a saying in the Hoosier State: if you want to be an engineer, you go to Purdue. If you want to do business, you go to Indiana. And if you want to be a lawyer, you go to Notre Dame. And well, if you're gonna sue somebody for defamation, you got to say it affected you in some type of way to make a decision. And they're about to take their money. The way I'm seeing it, and I'm calling it here now, what's going to end up happening is, because now everybody hates Notre Dame going into the college football selection. If Notre Dame got in, people would have hated us either way. There's no doubt in my mind. Either way this goes, they would have hated us. But now, since they still hate us, and then we're like, oh, you hate us still? Watch this move we're about to do. So, just like little lawyers they are, they decided that they're not going to play in a bowl game and make it about them. And they're going to make it somehow to make it seem like their feelings were hurt, their brand was hurt by the ACC. So now what are they going to do? They're going to go to court and get out of the ACC. Now, it is December. We still got half of a school year to go. We just finished the first semester. So I don't know how this is going to play a role for the rest of the ACC, but there might be a coming to an end by the end of this school year that they might revoke from the ACC. How does that complicate Notre Dame's schedule? It's going to complicate it a lot. The reason why Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference is because the state of Indiana was racist to Notre Dame and trying to get them to not join a conference.
That's not true.
It is. It is. It was.
It was Michigan.
It's documented.
It was Michigan.
It's a lot of it.
Notre Dame out of the Big Ten.
No, that's true too. That's true too, but there was other stuff that happened as well that was going on during that time. Yes, Michigan was a big factor why they didn't play in the conference. So Newt Rockne had to get on and go travel the country. That's how he played USC. That's how we started playing national brand television football. It's because of Notre Dame. So it's one of those things where it's more of a brand and national and just what we are as a culture being independent. And when they signed with the ACC, I do agree with you, Nick. The thing was, they wanted to, the ACC probably thought that they were going to join eventually. And during COVID, if you recall, they did join them to try to play into the conference championship and all that stuff because they had, they were legally forced or forfeit their football season. I mean, it was do or die. There's a lot of people dying. We're not getting into that whole situation, but it's just one of those things where now we're looking at it and the ACC said, okay, we're pushing for Miami. We don't need Notre Dame. This is the route we want to go. We're moving forward. That's what it is.
I don't like this. This is really not the kind of story that we like to talk about. Well, we had to talk about it just because of the relevance of CFP and
we had to.
The stuff with Notre Dame's future moving forward. I wish that this hadn't happened. It's really kind of a bummer, but anybody that wants to jump aboard the Hoosier bandwagon, I'll lend out a hand in friendship to you Notre Dame fans. If you'll lower yourself to the level of rooting for Indiana, we'll be happy to have you.
I was thinking that it'd be something like when Captain America's going down and he's like, Avengers Assemble, because we're a national brand, and that's how many fans we have. It's just going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks. I'm not covering it. I'm going to look at it, but I'm not texting anybody about it. Again, I let it go. As I told Big Nick, I already thought we were knocked out since week 2. I said this was a bonus. The only thing I don't like is if somebody keeps telling me we're going to go to Six Flags, we're going to go to Six Flags, we're going to Six Flags, Six Flags is coming. They tell me on a Tuesday, we're going to freaking Six Flags. And on Sunday, they go, well, actually, we're not going to Six Flags. You got to stay home. So I just want to let you know that that's the only thing I don't like about the situation.
I've got an extra ticket to the college football playoff theme park, Coach Drew, and you're welcome to come aboard with me, buddy.
Club CFP.
Club CFP. We might cut the Midwest goodbye a little short because I'm a little under the weather right now. Thank you guys for bearing with my raspy voice. Really looking forward to the playoff. We're going to have an Army-Navy preview for you guys here in a couple days. We're going to talk about the military academy a little bit. I have family members that graduated from West Point, so we're going to have a little fun with that. We've got rivalry fan letters for the Army-Navy game. You know you guys want to see that. I promise you they're good. I just got them sent to me today. They're pretty solid. And we'll also talk bowl games and CFP matchups a little more. Today, we mostly just wanted to do the conference championship games and touch on the Notre Dame drama just because we couldn't ignore it.
Hopefully, this is the only drama we have to cover with Notre Dame, but I feel like it's not. But guess what, guys? We're going to pull on our Santa Claus. We're supporting IU football because of Big Nick. I'm going to be representing the Big Ten. Ironic that I have to carry that burden. It's not really a burden, but you know, I'm going to be supporting them. I can't wait to see what Oregon does, and I can't wait to see what Indiana does, and I can't wait to see what Ohio State does. I mean, I want all the Big Ten teams to do excellent.
Definitely pulling for the Big Ten teams and rooting a little bit against the SEC teams. We want to see the Paul Feinbaums of the world have to cry their Cheerios a little bit. Well, if Bama manages to beat Oklahoma, Indiana doesn't have a WWE belt they're going to bring to the game, but they are going to bring a belt for an ass whipping if Alabama has to play Indiana. It's going to get ugly. And I'm licking my chops, baby. I'm ready. We'll hear Nick Saban. Hear Nick Saban explain that away after last year when he basically cursed Indiana as not being good enough to be in the CFP when they had 1 loss and Alabama had 3. So, you know, I'm not holding a grudge much. Actually, I am. Never mind. All right, Coach Drew. I need a cough drop, Coach Drew.
All right. Well, it's Coach Drew signing off.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.